What is going on, horror fans? Scream Fanatic here, and in today's video, I want to give a review on the very first Scream movie, Scream 1996. I declared when I first began this channel that I'm going to be doing a series of Scream reviews. I'm going to be going on a bit of a Screamathon leading into next month when the 7th Scream drops. I just previously watched the very first movie on Netflix, and man, I gotta tell you, this movie, it exceeded expectations. And I mean, I've seen this movie twice before. I saw it like in 2011 to prepare for Scream 4 when I was like 10 years old, very young. And I rewatched it in 2023 to prepare for Scream 6. And both times in watching, I mean, I believe I enjoyed it both times, especially the second time, but for some reason the third time hit different. Now, I don't know if it was because I'm just so hyped for Scream 7, but the original is usually always the best. Usually the first movie is always the best, and I know there's some people out there saying that Scream 6 was the best movie, which is a wild take. If you actually believe 6 is better than 1, you need to check yourself. But it's not just nostalgia bias that made me really like this movie, that really hooked me to this movie. But the thing is about this movie that makes it so well done is it's high intensity, high action at all times, and the movie is well paced, okay? It's not overly long. Like, the length is 1 hour and 51 minutes, and it's not an hour and 51 minutes wasted. Okay, the creators knew this movie didn't need to be that long, but it also didn't need to be that slow, because we started with like the opening kill where Ghostface phoned up Casey Becker, was kind of flirting with her, and then had that complete switch up from flirtiness to threatening energy. And then the opening kill happened the way it did. Casey Becker and her boyfriend get slimed out, and that already set the tone that, okay, this serial killer means business, right? But not just that. I mean, obviously there was one action scene stacked on top of another. You had Casey Becker's opening kill, then the whole high school finding out about it. Then a few scenes later, Sidney Prescott's getting attacked in her own home. Then another couple scenes later, the principal's already getting slimed out. Sydney's already getting attacked in the washroom. Like, so many things are happening all at once that it keeps you hooked to the movie. But another thing that I loved about this movie is the acting. Each character did like a great job. Okay, Neve Campbell killed the role. Courtney Cox killed the role. David Arquette, Skeet Ulrich, Drew Barrymore, Matthew Lillard. I forgot to even identify who these characters were playing, but I'm not going to go over this again. But, and then even Jamie Kennedy as a Randy Meeks, and I'm sorry, I didn't address I didn't add the character names of the actors earlier, but you already get the point. I thought Randy Meeks was a great character, and I thought all of the characters were well written, and it's rare when a movie has almost every single casting member or character that's perfectly written. Like, I literally loved every single character in the movie. Because there's some movies where some characters I find boring or annoying or not interesting. Every single character that was on screen, I found interesting, okay? I liked Sidney Prescott, okay? And I'm going to get into her journey very soon and a few of the journey of the other characters. I liked Gale Weathers, okay, and her personality. I liked, Dewey Riley. He's like the cop. I think he was like a rookie at the time, kind of new to the job. He wants to be respected. His sister's still kind of, I don't know who's old. Well, no, Dewey's the older brother, of course, because his sister's in high school. But, his sister still kind of mistreats him or treats him as a brother at home and not a cop to be respected. And that gets under Dewey's skin. I thought that was pretty funny. And of course, Billy Loomis was perfectly written. I loved his character and sort of his tragic backstory and how he's handled that. And of course, I like Casey Becker's character. And then Matthew Lillard with Stu Macher. I mean, he absolutely aced that role, kind of playing an innocent-looking, unassuming, just crazy high school guy that you wouldn't suspect to be the killer, right? And then Jamie Kennedy's Randy Meeks. I loved how this dude was just a movie nerd, but he was an expert. Like, he knew what he was talking about in every crazy take. Well, it wasn't a crazy take, but everything he said that sounded crazy was accurate, because he clocked Billy Loomis being the killer before anyone else did. Even if there were any first-time watchers 30 years ago who might have not known Billy was the killer, Randy was the first guy to warn you. He gives off serious serial killer vibes, and nobody listened to him. You know, even Randy and Stu were trying to gaslight him in the video store, but Randy Meeks knew what was up, and that's why I actually respected him, because he wasn't just comedic, he was actually intelligent. But, you know, the overall theme of the story, you know, as you know, a mass killer with, you know, a penchant for horror trivia terrorizes a teen and her friends, and, you know, Gale Weathers, the reporter, you know, who tries to find out who's behind the murders, right? Because we follow Sidney Prescott, a teenage girl who a year prior had her mother slain, right? Murdered by two serial killers. And originally, she thought she had closure on her mother's death. She thought that it was, what's that guy's name? Cotton Weary. She thought Cotton Weary did it, and it was settled. Cotton Weary was literally about to be slimed out. He was going to get the death sentence. And then we're introduced to Gale Weathers, who Gale, at first, she comes off as like an annoying reporter who just wants clout. And when she got punched in the face earlier on in the movie, you'd probably think she deserved to get punched, because she wrote on Sidney's mother's death and was like, oh, I'll send you a copy sometime. So she actually did deserve to get decked. But once you actually get to know Gale and her motive, it becomes hard not to respect her, because Gale Weathers, she reveals that she doesn't believe Cotton Weary killed Sidney's mom, and that she knows this, everything is off and suspicious. So she's trying to save a man's life and prove that it wasn't him. And of course, she succeeded, because Cotton Weary is free and out of prison in the next two movies, even though he sadly dies in the third movie, which I'll review in a couple movie reviews later. But yeah, Gale, she becomes more respectable, you know, as the movie goes on. And then, like I said, I talked about Sidney Prescott's journey, and she's trying to kind of overcome that trauma of losing her mom. And because of it, she became a little bit abstinent. You know, she wasn't giving Billy Loomis none. And little did she know, throughout the whole movie, Billy was manipulating her the whole time. Billy didn't actually love her. As we know, Billy was just using her. And I kind of liked how they set that up, that Billy Loomis was pretending to be on her side, pretending to be the supportive boyfriend, when really he was trying to coerce her, set her up, warm her up to eventually kill her, or try to kill her, you know, on her mom's 1-year anniversary of the death date, right? And then also Skeet Ulrich, Billy Loomis, like his character, I like what they did with his character and his tragic backstory, not just Sidney's, because even though Billy Loomis is evil, you kind of get where he's coming from, even though what he's doing isn't valid. It's not a valid crash out. Still, his father cheated on his mom for Maureen Prescott, and as a result, his mother, Nancy, walks out on him, abandons him. So he's got mommy issues. His mom leaves him, and that already imprinted some trauma in his life. So, of course, as a result, Billy ends up killing Maureen Prescott, covers it up, and frames Cotton Weary and begins the hunt against Sidney Prescott. I thought that was all well set up by the writers. And I also want to elaborate on Stu Macher and his character, what I loved about Stu, because there's a huge contrast between Billy and Stu. Billy had a legit motive but to do what he was doing. Stu did it just for the thrill. He did it just because it's fun. Like, he gives pure psychopathic energy, because I'm pretty sure, I'm not a psychologist, but psychopaths, they just do because it's fun. There's no specific reason behind it. It's almost like the Joker. And I love that that Stu Macher was written as like the agent of chaos character, because when he was asked by Sidney, what's your motive? This guy just said pure pressure. which isn't a good motive, but that's what makes it so hilarious. Like, I like how there was a huge contrast between the two. And another thing I want to say about both killers, if I was a first time watcher, right, and didn't have proof yet that Billy was the killer and Stu was the killer, I would not have suspected Stu to be the killer. I would not have saw it coming because of how he was written. He seemed innocent, just innocent and playful and wild. But with Billy, I would have understood why Randy Meeks clocked him being the killer. I would have already kind of felt iffy about Billy. You know, the vibes he gives off. He seems a little bit shady, a little bit weird. It's hard to explain, but even that scene where like Sydney gets attacked in her house and then Billy just so conveniently comes through her window and that little, you know, pocket phone comes out of his pocket, like the same phone that Ghostface uses to phone the victims. Like, that was already a seed planted, a seed of doubt planted in Sydney's mind, and intentionally meant to be a seed of doubt planted even in the viewer's mind. That, okay, something is off about Billy. Like, you could tell. With Stu, you would never be able to tell. And I thought that was a great contrast that the writers did between both characters. And then the third act, I love the third act payoff where there's a house party at Stu Macher's house. Half the high school is there. They're all gathering together watching Halloween with Randy Meeks, and Randy's explaining the rules of horror movies. I thought that was very entertaining. And then I just kind of love the part where, you know, Billy and Sydney, they go in Stu's, I think, parents' room or something like that. And finally, Sydney kind of gets her release, her fix with Billy. You get the point. I'm not going to go into graphic details, but that happens. And by that point, it's almost like you kind of, if you're already suspecting Billy is a killer, you might be second guessing and doubting yourself. Okay, you know what? Maybe Sydney's safe. And then I love what Wes does with the twist, where Ghostface crashes the party. Unfortunately, Tatum Riley gets killed in the garage. That was sad. And she was another character I love. I hate that she died. But I love that twist where there's a killer in the house. And that was a good way to throw off the first time viewers. Like, oh, okay, maybe it's not Billy. Then who could it possibly be? Okay, maybe it's not Stu Macher. And then the killer, the Ghostface killer, the masked killer comes in the room and stabs Billy Loomis. And then Sydney goes running for the hills. She books it, she runs for it. By that point, you're probably thinking, yeah, Billy's innocent. I love how they set that up. And then like towards, not the end of the third act, because it's not the end yet, but when out of nowhere, Billy Loomis just shoots Randy Meeks, saying we all go a little mad sometimes. And then by that point, you realize, okay, this guy is twisted. He definitely was the killer. And then you see Stu, and then Sydney runs into him, looking to him for comfort and support, and then Stu turns on the voice modulator. I love how they set up that whole twist where it's like you realize, oh crap, there are two killers, and the two killers are Billy and Stu. That was a good third act twist they pulled off there. And then I like that Billy explained the motive, what he was doing, why he was doing it. And then I just liked that in the end, it resulted with, you know, Sydney Prescott. She gets her closure. She finds the truth, and she doesn't just get her closure through truth, but she gets her closure through avenging her mom, killing Billy Loomis, not killing Stu. She just dumps the TV on his face. Stu survives that. We'll see him in Scream 7. But I thought the third act was like well put together, story-wise, action-wise. And by the end of this movie, you already now have an established core group of characters who are like the anchors of this franchise, okay? Chad Meeks had the core 4. Well, in the late 90s, you had the core 3. Sydney Prescott, Gale Weathers, and Dewey Riley, although rest in peace, Dewey. Now it's the core 2 who are back for Scream 7. But I like how they had that little mini team established there, okay? Sydney had support. And Sydney herself went from being a victim earlier on in the movie, a victim trying to process trauma of losing her mom, to now a fighter, a victim to now a victor and a final girl. Like, I love how Sydney's character evolved throughout the film and the franchise as a whole. So I would totally recommend you watch the first Scream movie if you haven't already, or if you haven't seen it in a while and you don't have much of a memory of it. Because this was a great movie, and my rating for Scream 1996 will be a solid 8.5 out of 10. That's how good it was. But I'll see y'all in the Scream 2 movie review when I watch Scream 2. I might, pop in a few other videos in between then, who knows. I have a few other video ideas. And I've also been very inactive, so I'm going to try to be more active on this channel. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, and peace out.